Evening, everyone, and welcome to The Next Revolution. I'm Steve Hilton, and this is the home of positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community. The big story tonight, President Trump refusing to back down over China. Here's what he said tonight. We are right where we want to be with China. Remember, they broke the deal with us and tried to renegotiate. We will be taking in tens of billions of dollars in tariffs from China. Buyers of product can make it themselves in the USA, ideal, or buy it from non-tariffed countries. Now, today, the president is being applauded across the political spectrum for his tough approach. But remember, it wasn't always like that.
Everything I have learned about China as president and before, and everything I have learned about human nature in over half a century of living now, convinces me that we have a far greater chance of having a positive influence on China's actions if we welcome China into the world community instead of shutting it out.
Oh, yeah, positive influence. Right. Well, Clinton's successor, George W. Bush, put it like this, quote, "Open trade is a force for freedom in China, a force for stability in Asia, and a force for prosperity in the United States. When we open trade, we open minds. We trade with China because trade is good policy for our economy, trade is good policy for democracy, and because trade is good policy for our national security." And here was his successor.
The United States welcomes the rise of a China that is peaceful, stable, prosperous, and a responsible player in global affairs.
A responsible player in global affairs. We were told all this by everyone in the establishment, left and right. If we open up to China, if we give them the Olympics, if we only scold them gently behind closed doors because they hate losing face, if we do all that, China will behave. What idiots! China never had good intentions. Since the late 80s, its stated aim has been world domination, technologically and militarily, and their path to that was economic domination, achieved by hacking and stealing the West's technology and exploiting its own workers and the environment. The establishment idiots were too naive or too corrupted by Chinese cash to see it. There was one lone voice, though. Guess who said this 2 decades ago? Our biggest long-term challenge will be China. The Clinton administration, like the Bush administration, follows a policy of constructive engagement with China. When China disappoints expectations and ignores lofty lectures, we issue a few condemnations, hammer out some meaningless resolution at the UN, if we can get it by China's UN delegation, and call upon them to comport themselves like citizens of the community of nations. Then we get back down to business as if nothing happened. How's this policy working? It isn't. Well, that was Donald Trump. And here he is again, a decade ago.
If you look at what China is doing to this country, it's disgraceful.
Doing how?
Well, they're making all our products. We're not manufacturing anything. They're making all our products and selling it to us, and then they're loaning us the money.
Employers cheaper labor, right?
Hey, excuse me. They take our money and then they loan it back to us. I mean, you know, we should be fighting China.
And the snooty establishment called Trump the ignoramus. He was right about China. The entire establishment got it wrong. Now, as president, Donald Trump is delivering exactly the tough stance he called for as a private citizen 2 decades ago, using tariffs as his chosen weapon because, of course, unlike diplomatic statements at the UN, tariffs actually get the Chinese regime's attention. But still you have the same establishment geniuses who got China so wrong lining up against tariffs.
If we push up tariffs, they push up tariffs, the whole global economy slows, the U.S. economy slows, the U.S. economy could be pushed into recession.
These tariffs are a terrible idea, but they're not just a terrible idea this week or this month, but they're a terrible idea because it doesn't make sense of where we are in economic history.
The tariffs have hurt our economy, they've hurt Chinese economy, and therefore the world economy.
History shows imposing more tariffs hurts the global economy and hurts the U.S. economy. I don't think there are many people that would disagree with that on any kind of long-term basis.
Oh, look at Stephanie nodding along. Actually, the facts disagree with that, Mr. Smarty Pants. Since the tariffs, America's economy has gone from strength to strength. Faster growth, lower unemployment, higher earnings, all since the trade war that was going to wreck the economy. But if you want to really understand the depths of elitist idiocy over trade, tariffs and China, take a look at this from Never Trumper David Frum on Friday.
If what you think you're doing in a trade dispute with China is protecting the industries of the 1950s, like dishwashers, you're not going to get anything, because what the United States cares about are the industries of the future. What we're concerned about are the technologies of 5G telephony, intellectual property, making sure that American movie makers are not ripped off. Tomorrow's industries. President Trump has no vision of tomorrow's economy.
What a perfect articulation of arrogant coastal snobbery. Oh, my dear, we don't want manufacturing. We want the industries of the future. So, according to the establishment, we don't need washing machines now? What's David Frum going to do? Shove his dirty underpants into his 5G laptop? But the big point here is that this whole story is not just about economics anyway. We are literally in a battle to determine the value system that will dominate this century and perhaps the next one too. Freedom or authoritarianism, democracy or one-party rule. Yes, the trade deficit matters, the loss of manufacturing even more. But we need to understand that China declared war on us many years ago. As someone said to me just last night, fighting back might mean sacrifices. But that is part of a proper war effort. But in any case, we can easily afford to fight China. To hear some people talk about it, you'd think we're totally dependent on China. That is absolute rubbish. Our economy is huge, and thanks to President Trump's pro-enterprise agenda, is growing fast. Imports from China are just 2.7% of its total. Exports to China, a mere 0.9%. Over 96% of our economy is not trade with China. We could totally disengage from China and we'd be absolutely fine. By the way, for years, that's what I've been arguing for, a total economic boycott of China and sanctions on other countries who collaborate with this evil regime. Make the world choose. You can do business with America or the authoritarian dictators of Beijing, who oppress their own people, put millions of Muslims in concentration camps, and are rolling out a new and insidious colonialism around the world with their rapacious Belt and Road Infrastructure Program. Which side are you on? Britain, Canada, the EU? You choose. We know which side Joe Biden is on. If he's the Democrats' candidate in 2020, China will be the defining issue on the ballot because Joe Biden has made his choice. He's with China.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not they're competition for us.
Why is he saying this? Well, we told you that 2 weeks ago. Joe Biden is compromised by China. He has taken billions of dollars in bribes from the Chinese government in the form of payments to his son's businesses. With Joe China in the White House, the policies of economic surrender and political appeasement would be back. President Trump is the first Western leader in 50 years to stand up to China. It could turn out to be the most important policy shift of the 21st century. Tell me what you think of that at Steve Hilton X and at NextRev FNC.